Hey, what's up, everybody? When you start consulting, one of the first things you're going to find out is you need to figure out how you're going to bill. Are you going to bill by the hour? Are you going to bill by the day, by the week, by the month? Are you going to use the hourly or value-based pricing model? You're going to get a bunch of different advice from all over the place. And it's one of the questions I get asked a lot. So into this video, I'm going to tell you exactly what I think you should do and why it's important. So let's check it out. Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. My name's Don Felker. On this channel, I talk about how you can start, survive, and thrive in the world of consulting and small business so you can live the life that you want on the terms that you want and hopefully find yourself some financial freedom along the way. If this type of information is interesting to you, please hit subscribe down below and let's get right to it. So, what should you do when you're starting consulting? Should you focus on hourly rates, or should you focus on more of a value-based pricing model? And value-based pricing is where you're going to basically bill by the day, or you're going to bill by the week, or you're going to bill by the month perhaps. And there's a few different ways to break it up. But what you see online a lot of the time when you start talking about hourly rates is you'll have a bunch of people that say, you need to be billing by value. You need to be billing by day. You're leaving a bunch of money on the table. Working by hour is just replacing your job. And while there is some validity in that statement that you're kind of just replacing your job, if you're billing at the right amount, you're not really replacing your job. So which one is really right and what do I think? So immediately right out of the gate, I'm just going to tell you how it is. It's hourly. And if you're starting out, I recommend that you go with hourly billing. Now, if you can and you do have the ability to sell your client on a weekly or a day rate or even a monthly rate for your services, and it's a very lucrative deal that you can pull off, then by all means do it. And so let's talk about why you might want to do that. When you are a value-based priced, when your services are value-based and you're billing by the day or billing by the week, you're basically saying, look, my day is going to be worth X amount. Now, let's say you make $100 an hour and you just say, hey, my day is worth $800, or maybe it's worth $1,000 a day. So as long as you're getting the work done within a day, then that's fine. The client's happy with that. The problem is the client doesn't really know what that day is, what that period of time is. So what I'm trying to say is it's kind of hard to be on the same page as your client when you're building by value. Now, again, there are complete anomalies in the industry where you're going to find clients that are okay with billing by the day or by the week or by the month. But on this channel, I'm trying to help you break into consulting, kind of help you get your financial freedom from consulting and kind of build a new life. And so the best way to do that through consulting is to just literally hop into hourly rates, and it's going to be the easiest. I've been consulting for over 20 years now in one form or another. 90-95% of it's all been hourly. The other 5 to 10% has been fixed bid projects, which we'll talk about in another video. Anytime I interact with a client, the conversation usually kind of goes like this. We'll talk about the project, we'll talk about the services, what I can do, how I can help, and then eventually the inevitable comes, well, how much do you charge per hour? And that's usually the question I get, or it's how much do you charge? So if they throw the how much do you charge, of course, you could try to sell them on a weekly rate. But what's going to happen from a business perspective in the client's mind is if you tell them, hey, I'm $1,000 a day, or just give it $800. I'm $800 a day. They're immediately just going to do the math. They're going to be like 800 divided by 8, that's $100 an hour. Okay, he's $100 an hour. That's what they're going to do. So if you tell them that you're $1,000 for a day, they're just going to take it divided by 8. That's the hourly rate that they're paying you. So $125. That's what they're going to do. The same thing that goes for a week, they're going to just take the hours in a week. Same thing goes for a month. They're going to take it for a month. And the reason why they do that is because that's the way that they're used to paying all of their contractors that they use through any of the services that are out there, such as Upwork or Fiverr or many of the other ones that have been around for ages. They pay by the hour. And of course, they probably have hourly employees on their staff. So when you are actually talking to a client, they're already in their head thinking about hourly rates if they haven't asked for it yet. And when you're breaking into consulting, what you're trying to do is trying to get your foothold in the industry as fast as possible. So you kind of want to build a name for yourself. And the pool of value-based pricing clients that are okay with value-based pricing is very small compared to the hourly-based pool of clients that are available. So when you start out, you're going to be able to go to many companies and say, hey, my hourly rate is $100 an hour. And at that point, most likely you're going to find a gig pretty easily, or whatever your rate is at that point. But if you are going strictly for value-based pricing, it's a much tougher sell. You need to be good at sales. You need to be able to convince the client. You need to be able to demonstrate the value. And if you don't have the technical chops or you don't have the history to do so, it's really hard to sell yourself on a value-based pricing model. Now, again, if you are an SEO client and you know that you can turn their site from page 3 on Google into page 1, and there's value, quantifiable value, and you could sell that, then do that. I just find it very difficult to do for most people that are trying to get into consulting right out of the gate. Furthermore, what ends up happening with a lot of value-based pricing is they say, well, look, I think this project's going to take me about 4 weeks and my weekly rate is $4,000, whatever that is. Now, what ends up happening is, what happens if this goes over a week? What if it's a week and a day? What if it's a week and 4 days? Do you give them, how do you break that up? Do you just take the 4,000 and divide it by 5? Well, then that's just the daily rate. And what's the daily rate divided by 8? Well, then you're back to an hourly rate. So really what all this comes down to is your client's going to sit there and think about this as being an hourly rate. They're just going to do the math. Like, that's the way that businesses think. And the same thing when you go to a large Fortune 500 company, which I consulted at for a number of years, they are going to work through a vendor. And the vendor is an approved vendor. And these vendors, which if you want to go work for a Fortune 500 company, you have to basically be a subcontractor under one of these vendors. Because just the way that the organization is working, they only work with 3 vendors. It makes their legalities and payment processing just much easier. So if you want to work for these companies, you go in through a vendor. They bill you out at a little bit higher rate so they can get a cut, but that's another story. What ends up happening is that vendor wants to know how much per hour you make. And if you tell them I normally charge $800 a day, automatically what they're going to do is say, okay, that's $100 an hour. And they're going to bill you out at $100 an hour. And so you get paid at $100 an hour. So again, it's all going to go back to time. I'm not saying that the value-based pricing model is incorrect, that it doesn't work or anything of that nature. It does work. If you can find a client that's okay with it and you can get yourself set up on a good value-based project and you know how to manage your time appropriately, it can work out really in your favor. It's a much harder sell. It's going to be very hard to find the clients. And if you're just starting out in consulting, you're trying to build your clientele and you're trying to have a much larger base. So I recommend that you go for hourly rate right out of the gate. Find your hourly rate. There's another video for the 2.1x method where I help you actually find your minimum base rate that you should have when you're starting out as a consultant. So you can check that out in the card above. And then from there, you can just start billing out that rate and keep building your clientele. The pool of clients is going to be large, especially if you're utilizing all of your network, recruiters, etc. And you'll find it much easier to grow your new consulting career. Now, I hope that helps. If this is stuff that you'd like to hear about, please consider subscribing to the channel and hit the notification bell so you get notified when a new video comes out. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.